What's going on, guys, and welcome to my ranking of all 5 Indiana Jones films, which I'll be going over each and every one of them from worst to best. This is something that wasn't really planned, but it was requested, so give the people what they want. And I do acknowledge that I've never reviewed any of the others other than Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, the latest one. Which, if you have not checked that out yet, I recommend to do so. It's down in the description below, so check that out when you can. Thank you so much, guys, for clicking here. I really do appreciate it. As I've said in my Dial of Destiny review, this is a character. Indiana Jones is one of those characters that's really beloved, and it's one of my favorite characters out of the things that Harrison Ford has done between Star Wars and Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones has always been my personal favorite. Indiana Jones is a great franchise, is one of the most beloved characters in cinema history. I mean, the franchise has its highs and lows, but for the most part, it's a pretty cool franchise. And I have binge watched all 4, like the first 4 of these leading up to the release of the Dial of Destiny, so at least I got that going for me for this video. So without further ado, let's get this party started. Starting off with number 5 is Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Now, this one I've always pegged to be the weakest, as I know a lot of folks do. But it's not that bad. It's not the worst I've seen in a franchise. I've seen much worse when I've been doing these rankings. Halloween ends. But Kingdom of the Crystal Skull wasn't really actually all that bad, but it was the weakest compared to that original trilogy, especially to that original trilogy. But you had some cool moments, like Harrison Ford, for example, which is basically the beacon of this franchise and can never really do no wrong in this franchise. Harrison Ford was born to play this part. There's nobody else, fit to don that fedora and whip. He was pretty good in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I mean, all of them he was, but Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, even though it was the weakest, he was pretty good. He had some solid, decent action in there. Some of the CGI was a little iffy, but it was still pretty decent. But it ultimately failed in direction, story, and plot. Where you have this crystal skull that's basically, you find out that there's an alien race. They throw in aliens, which is one of the main reasons why people have a lot of problem with this. Basically, they threw out some ideas, some good ideas, but it was executed in the wrong way, if that makes any sense. The dynamic, the chemistry between Shia LaBeouf and Harrison Ford, it was nowhere near the level that Sean Connery and Harrison Ford had in The Last Crusade. It didn't hold a candle to that. The villains in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull was dull. There was nothing interesting, especially in Cate Blanchett's character. Nothing interesting there. Plus, as I said before, the whole alien plot was a little silly. So that's why number 5, Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Coming in at number 4 is Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, the new kid on the block. So what I liked in Dial of Destiny over Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, it was a little more tolerable. It was a little more believable. It felt more like an Indiana Jones movie instead of somewhat of a Men in Black, Alien, E.T. type of thing that Crystal Skull brought out. Dial of Destiny was more tolerable. I like that it got back to basics. Even at 80 years old, Harrison Ford still nailed it as the character. I found no problem with his performance. I mean, yes, there's some segments sprinkled in there, and I don't think I said this in a review of that film, but there was some segments sprinkled in here and there where you could tell that there was stunt doubles, and because he can't really punch as much as he used to in the original trilogy, especially in the first 4, even the first 4. I loved the score by John Williams. That definitely brought back a lot of nostalgic for me. That classic Indiana Jones score. I like what Mads Mikkelsen brought to the role of the main villain in this film. I thought he was written in very well. But what puts this at number 4 is a couple of things. Even though it was a good movie, it was a little more tolerable than Crystal Skull. But what puts this at number 4 is Phoebe Waller-Bridge's character. Did not like her character. She was not likable at all. She's not somebody that you could warm up to, that you could cheer for. She was basically an asshole towards Harrison Ford the whole entire movie. There were some moments sprinkled without, but as I said in the review for that, nothing to redeem her. It's a little bit anticlimactic to where you have this ending scene to where, yes, there's plenty of action thrown in. It doesn't falter there, But the whole anticlimactic thing, compared to the first four, especially the original trilogy, it wasn't that memorable. It wasn't that thing that you could say that, oh, okay, I'll definitely remember that movie for. It wasn't nothing like that. It just didn't give you that boost that the original trilogy did. But it was still a pretty good enough entry. So that's why number 4 is Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Coming in at number 3 is Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Now this one always stood out the most to me, and with good reason too. So basically this gave birth to the PG-13 rating, to where you have all these horror elements, and a bunch of parents were pissed off that they were taking their kids to see something like this. It caught everybody off guard. Just the level of horror that it had in it. This was considered the most controversial for that reason alone. But the horror elements is what always captivated me, is what always drawn me to this one the most. You have dudes' hearts being ripped out while being sacrificed in fiery pits, and other dudes being crushed by rock crushers and voodoo and all this other stuff. It gets pretty bloody. It gets pretty tense. To this day, I don't know why they kept the PG rating. As I said, this is the first movie in cinema history that gave birth to the PG-13 rating, which tells me there was no such thing as the PG-13 rating before this movie came out. You also have dudes being eaten by alligators. It's just crazy. It's all this different crazy stuff that just screams out either PG-13 or R-rated. Got an excellent villain in Molaram, who was a terrific baddie. Again, that's why this one stood out the most to me. For horror fans, especially horror nuts like myself, that's why this one is actually really good. Pretty awesome, in fact. However, some things that just annoyed the crap out of me, like Kate Capshaw's character. Well, just why, folks? All she did was whine and whine and whine. I never bought into her and Harrison Ford's chemistry. She's one of those characters that just got annoying by the minute as the movie went on, and no. And the whole MacGuffin items that Indiana Jones was searching for, these stones, wasn't really that memorable, especially compared to the Ark of the Covenant for Raiders and the chalices from the Last Crusade. There's really nothing that much memorable in Temple of Doom when it came to the MacGuffin items in this film. Still, the film was pretty solid, so that's why number 3, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. The last two on this list was a little difficult to do. Both were great, actually the definitive ones of this franchise, in my opinion. As I said, I had rewatched all 4 of these leading up to the new one. And after the rewatch, I gotta be honest with myself. At first, it was going to be a juggle, but I gotta go with my gut on this. So coming in at number 2 is Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Now, any other given moment, if I had not watched these leading up to the new one just last week, I probably would have put this one as number 1. But after rewatch, I gotta be honest. The Last Crusade is considered my favorite, and I'm sure a bunch of other people's favorite as well. And it still is. It was a great movie. It was a great action-adventure flick, and the one that really should have stopped, and the one that they had planned to stop there for a while, because look how long it took for them to come out with Crystal Skull. But this is the one that pushed me to this franchise. I do believe that this one's the one I watched first, and this is the one that really pushed me towards this character. This one was really great. I love that 10-minute little intro where it showed the young Indiana Jones and the reason why he's so afraid of snakes, and just that whole little chase segment on that train. I loved that. I like the MacGuffin items in this a lot better than Temple of Doom, where you have this cup that supposedly held Jesus' blood on the crucifixion, on the day of the crucifixion. All this other stuff that has come up with the knights, and that whole awesome ending where you have that guy drink from the wrong cup and it makes him turn old really fast. That whole effect there. And that whole tank chase at the end as well. That was pretty epic. That's what this movie is most known for, from what I'm finding out. And with good reason too. The dynamic between Sean Connery and Harrison Ford is priceless. much better than Shia LaBeouf and Harrison Ford was in Crystal Skull. God, after watching this one, they really dropped the ball with that one. The only thing that holds it back for me, that holds this particular The Last Crusade back for me, was the two main villains in Donovan and Elsa. Now, Donovan, he was okay, but I never really considered him that much of a threat. It seemed like he was the weaker villain of the original trilogy. He was the weakest out of all the villains that the original trilogy had. Plus the fact that Elsa, it never really explained why she got in bed with the Nazis, why she pretty much turned her back on Indiana Jones, and why she's been working with the enemy this whole time. As the movie progressed, it never explains any of that. It just kind of took me away from that alone. It just doesn't really open our character enough for me to care. But still, The Last Crusade is a fun entry. Despite what I just said there, it's still my favorite, and I still hold it up as higher than the rest. So that's why number 2, Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade. And last but not least, pretty obvious here, coming in at number 1 is Raiders of the Lost Ark. This one is pretty much flawless. I can't find a single thing wrong with this. This is the one that introduced the world to this character. It's a great story, great action. That whole boulder scene, which everybody talks to even to this day, everybody recognizes that movie for, was awesome. Harrison Ford, top notch. Like I said before, there's not a film in this franchise that he never falters. And it pretty much leads up to one of the most climactic climaxes in cinema history, with the whole face melting scene after they opened that Ark of the Covenant. It was all around nuts. It was all around crazy, and it was all around awesome. It's just a fun ride. Raiders of the Lost Ark is just a fun ride, plain and simple. Nothing wrong with it. It's just a fun ride all around, plain and simple. So that's why Raiders of the Lost Ark, number 1. Well, that's it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, like, subscribe, comment, and share. And what are your favorite ones out of this franchise? Give me your list in the comment section below. What are your favorites in this franchise? Give me your ranking. Leave me a comment down below and give me your thoughts. Thank you so much, guys, for watching this. I really do appreciate it. And I'll see you on the next one. Peace.